Imagine this. You have just stepped off a grueling, like 14-hour international flight.
Oh, yeah, the absolute worst.
Your internal clock is completely shattered. You've dragged your suitcase through customs, you navigated some labyrinth of a transit system, and finally, mercifully, you are standing in the brightly lit lobby of your hotel.
You made it to the finish line.
Exactly. So you step up to the front desk, the receptionist smiles and says, "Good evening, may I have your passport, please?" And suddenly, your brain just goes completely blank.
Just a total freeze.
Yes, every single word of English you have ever learned just vanishes into thin air. We have all been there. So today, we are hacking that exact moment of panic to show you why you do not need a master's degree in English to survive a hotel stay. You just need a few linguistic cheat codes.
And you know, that brain freeze is actually a biological reality. The stress of travel combined with sheer exhaustion basically shuts down the language centers in your brain.
Which makes total sense.
Right, but the irony here is that the hospitality industry operates on highly predictable scripts. The interactions you face at a hotel are almost identical worldwide.
It's the same dance everywhere.
It really is. So if you understand the underlying mechanics of how English speakers communicate in these specific service environments, you completely change the tone of your trip. You stop dreading the interactions and you start controlling them.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are pulling from a source guide designed for intermediate English learners. But honestly, the psychology behind these interactions applies to absolutely anyone who wants better service when they travel.
Definitely.
So we're going to deconstruct the entire journey, starting right at that front desk. Let's talk about the first major trap people fall into: the linguistic difference between an action you took in the past and the reality of the present moment.
Yes, you are referring to the classic booking versus reservation collision.
That's the one.
This is where a literal translation of a concept leads straight into a communication breakdown. Because many travelers will walk right up to the reception desk and state, "I booked a hotel." Or, depending on their native language, they might just put their hand out and demand, "Give me the key."
Okay, wait, I have to challenge that first statement, though.
Go for it.
Because if I went online 3 months ago, put in my credit card, and paid for the stay, I did factually book the hotel.
Yeah.
So why is stating a literal fact considered the wrong tool for this specific job?
Well, because it's factually accurate in the grand timeline of the universe, sure, but it's practically useless to the person standing in front of you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, booking is the action you took in the past. When you are standing at the front desk, the receptionist knows you booked it. Or at least they desperately hope you did, otherwise you shouldn't be standing there.
Right, right.
Stating, "I booked a hotel" is kind of like walking into a restaurant, sitting down, and telling the waiter, "I decided to eat food."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
You are giving them unnecessary historical context instead of the actionable data they actually need right now.
Precisely. The receptionist doesn't need to know about your past action. They need the current record of that action. So the correct phrasing is, "I have a reservation."
I have a reservation, okay.
Right, the reservation is the abstract agreement that exists right now in their computer system. Then you have the room, which is the physical space you're actually going to sleep in.
Got it.
And the room key is simply the physical tool to access it. So mixing these concepts up, like telling a receptionist you booked a room key or demanding they give you the reservation.
Which people do.
They do. It forces the staff to decipher your intent before they can even start helping you.
Our sources actually share a story about a traveler who walked up, tried to check in, and realized they had accidentally secured the wrong dates entirely.
Oh no, a nightmare scenario.
A total nightmare. But if that traveler had aggressively dug in with, "But I booked a hotel," it would have immediately created an adversarial dynamic. But because they calmly explained the reservation error using clear, simple terms, the staff treated it as a collaborative problem to solve.
Rather than a fight to be won.
Exactly. And they fixed the dates right on the spot.
Which highlights a really crucial point. The goal in these environments isn't perfect textbook grammar. The goal is effective, cooperative communication. And in English, cooperative communication relies on a very specific cultural tool.
You were talking about soft language.
Yes, soft language.
Because knowing the vocabulary is only half the battle. Knowing how to deploy it is what actually gets you the room upgrade. So let's actually demonstrate this to show the mechanics in action.
I love this idea.
I'll play the exhausted guest who just arrived on that 14-hour flight, and you play the hotel receptionist.
I will channel my best late-night hospitality voice.
Perfect. So setting the scene, it's midnight, the lobby is dead quiet, and I am practically dragging my suitcase across the marble floor. I walk up to the desk.
Good evening. Welcome to the Grand Hotel. How can I help you tonight?
Hi there. I have a reservation. It's under the name Smith.
Let me just pull that up for you, Mr. Smith. Ah, yes, here it is. May I have your passport and a credit card for the deposit, please?
Here you go. Also, if possible, could I have a quiet room? I'm a very light sleeper.
Certainly. I can place you on a higher floor at the end of the hallway. It should be very quiet up there.
Thank you so much. Oh, one quick question. Is the Wi-Fi included?
Yes, the Wi-Fi is complimentary. You'll find the network and password on your keycard sleeve.
Great. And finally, what time is checkout tomorrow?
Checkout is at 11 a.m. Here is your room key.
And end scene. Okay, so on the surface, that sounds like an incredibly basic, almost mundane conversation.
Very standard.
But the sources point out that there is a deep layer of cultural strategy happening in the specific words I chose to use. Like, I didn't use complex vocabulary, but I used very specific structures to cushion my requests.
We definitely need to analyze that cushioning because English, especially in customer service or hospitality settings, relies heavily on this softened approach to build rapport.
It's all about the rapport.
Right. In many cultures, a transactional interaction is just that. Transactional. You want something, you state what you want directly. But in English hospitality, there is this unwritten social contract.
Like, you have to pretend it's a polite favor between friends.
Exactly. You pretend it's a favor rather than a financial transaction. So when you asked about the internet, you didn't say, I need internet. You asked, is the Wi-Fi included?
Right, because saying I need internet sounds a bit...
It's a demand. It places a burden directly on the receptionist to fulfill your need. By framing it as a question about the hotel's policies, is the Wi-Fi included, you are inviting the receptionist to provide you with information collaboratively. You're removing the pressure.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the same psychological trick applies to the room key. If you say, give me the key, you are issuing an order. You are treating the staff member like a subordinate. But saying, could I have the room key, please? It introduces a hypothetical scenario.
The word could is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
It is the ultimate diplomatic tool in the English language.
Right.
Could softens a demand into an inquiry. It implies that the receptionist has the autonomy to say no, even though you both know they are obviously going to give you the key.
Right, they have to give it to you.
But giving them that illusion of choice preserves their dignity, which makes them categorize you subconsciously as a polite, reasonable guest.
Our sources actually give another really good example of this cushioning effect. Instead of asking, where's breakfast, which sounds a bit like you were just demanding to be fed immediately.
Which you probably are.
True. But the softer approach is to say, where is the breakfast area? Adding the word area shifts the focus entirely.
It does. It shifts the focus from your personal hunger to the logistics of the hotel. It shows respect for the environment you are in.
It's a tiny linguistic pivot.
It is a small pivot, but when things inevitably go wrong later in the trip, having already established yourself as someone who respects the staff's environment is exactly what gets you the best customer service.
So true. Okay, so once you navigate that initial front desk exchange, the dynamic shifts.
Yeah.
You have the key card, you are heading down the hallway, and suddenly you are dealing with the logistical reality of the building itself.
Time to find the room.
Exactly. You have to figure out the elevator, what floor you're on, maybe locate the gym or the swimming pool. And this is where the language becomes less about diplomacy and more about highly functional operational questions.
You are transitioning from building rapport to acquiring data. This is where you rely on questions like, which floor am I on? Or a wildly common one given modern technology, how do I use this key card?
Yes. Because every hotel seems to have a totally different proprietary sensor system. Like, do I tap it? Do I insert it? Do I wave it near the handle and do a little dance?
It's always a guessing game.
It really is.
Yeah.
But as you are navigating these operational hurdles, the staff might also ask you operational questions, which actually brings us to a mid-dive quiz for you listening at home, focusing on how English physically constructs concepts.
Oh, let's see how our listeners handle a linguistic curveball.
Okay, imagine you are standing at the desk and the receptionist looks at you and asks, what time would you like your wake-up call?
Okay.
Now, for a native speaker, that is a seamless request.
Yeah.
But linguistically, what is actually happening there? I will give you two options. Does this mean option A, when do you want breakfast served? Or option B, when do you want someone to call your room in the morning?
I will give everyone just a second to mentally lock in their answer based on how those specific words combine.
Got your answer. The answer is B. When do you want someone to call your room in the morning?
A classic.
Right. And this is a brilliant example of how English uses phrasal verbs as like the duct tape of the language.
It is a fascinating quirk of English. Wake up is the verbal act of transitioning from sleep to consciousness. But English speakers will just smash a verb and a preposition together, attach the word call to the end of it, and create an entirely new compound noun, a wake-up call.
A wake-up call.
It is literally a phone call provided by the hotel to ensure the act of waking up happens at a specific time.
But if you translate wake up and call directly into some other languages, it sounds absurd. You might think they're asking to, I don't know, shout up at your window.
Exactly.
But recognizing these phrasal verbs as single modular units of meaning is key to surviving the next phase of the hotel journey. Because eventually the polite social contract breaks down. You get to your room, you kick off your shoes, and something is broken.
Ah, the breakdown phase. This is where the stress level truly spikes for a traveler. You are alone in your room, you are tired, and you suddenly realize the TV won't turn on, or there is no hot water, or you only have one towel. You now have to pick up the phone and explain a localized, potentially technical issue in another language.
The sources share a painful, yet entirely avoidable story about this exact thing. A traveler spent an absolutely miserable, sleepless night in a hotel room because the air conditioner was broken.
Oh, no.
It was stuck on the maximum setting, blowing freezing air all night long. And they literally just suffered through it, huddled under the blankets, because they were terrified of the technical terminology trap.
Wait, really? They just froze all night?
Yes, because they thought they needed to know the English words for thermostat or ventilation or freon just to explain the problem to the front desk.
That is heartbreaking because communication is about functional outcomes, not technical precision. You do not need to be an HVAC technician to get your air conditioning fixed.
You really don't.
You just need to initiate the hotel's internal help protocol. You can simply pick up the phone and say, "Could someone help me, please?"
Yeah.
Or my personal favorite for its sheer simplicity, "There's a problem with my room."
I love that one. There's a problem with my room is beautifully effective. It completely bypasses the need for any technical jargon.
It just signals that an anomaly exists and requires a human to come look at it.
Right.
And if you need that physical person to come up, you deploy that soft language again. Could you send someone? You don't explain the mechanics of the broken TV. You just state the functional failure.
Okay, but I do have to push back on one specific piece of advice the sources offer here, because it feels completely counterintuitive to human nature.
All right, what is it?
Let's say my room is right next to the elevator shaft, or it's overlooking a busy highway, and it is insanely loud. The sources suggest I should go to the front desk and say, "The room is a little noisy. Could I change rooms?"
Yes, that's standard advice.
But if I am paying $300 a night, and my room sounds like a heavy metal concert is happening in my closet, why on earth should I minimize my own suffering? Shouldn't I express exactly how severe the problem is so they take my pain seriously?
It is such a natural instinct to want your suffering validated, especially when you're paying for it. But this gets to the very heart of how English conversational culture resolves conflict. Minimizing the complaint, saying it's a little noisy instead of yelling about the deafening highway, is a highly strategic, diplomatic tool.
But by downplaying the heavy metal concert, aren't I risking the receptionist just shrugging and saying, well, if it's only a little noisy, just put in some earplugs and deal with it?
You would think so, but the hotel staff implicitly understand the cultural code here. They know that a little noisy is polite code for unacceptably loud.
Ah, it's code.
It's totally code. If you go down to the desk and aggressively complain about how terrible the room is, the staff member's immediate psychological response is defensiveness.
Because it's not their fault.
Exactly. They didn't build the busy street outside. They didn't put the elevator shaft next to your bed. But your aggression makes them feel personally attacked.
Because nobody wants to be blamed for circumstances outside their control.
Right?
So by minimizing the complaint, I am essentially giving them an out.
Yes. You are presenting the problem as a small, manageable inconvenience rather than a systemic failure of their entire hotel. You are completely removing the blame from the person standing in front of you.
Wow.
It makes the staff feel safe rather than attacked, which makes them far more eager to help you. They appreciate the grace you are showing them by not throwing a tantrum. It paves the way for the soft request, "Could I change rooms?"
That is fascinating.
In the hospitality industry, aggressive demands get you the bare minimum of compliance. Diplomacy gets you the room upgrade.
That reframes the entire interaction. You are basically saying, hey, we have this tiny shared hiccup, let's fix it together. And speaking of keeping things simple, The sources also note how crucial basic phrasal verbs are for resolving these room equipment issues. We mentioned phrasal verbs earlier with the wake-up call, but they are essential for electronics too. You don't need to try and formulate a sentence like, please instruct me on how to activate the television monitor.
Please don't say that.
Right. You just need the modules turn on and turn off.
Could you show me how to turn on the air conditioner? That one simple verb phrase, turn on, covers like 90% of the electronic issues you will ever face in a hotel room. It is a total utility phrase.
So, we have survived the night. The AC was turned off. The noisy room was changed through pure diplomacy. The Wi-Fi was included. Now the trip is wrapping up, and we arrive at the final interaction, checking out smoothly.
The grand finale.
And the vocabulary for departure shifts away from hospitality and comfort and moves strictly into finances. We're dealing with the bill, the receipt, the charge, handing over your credit card, and getting your initial deposit back.
Yet, even as the conversation turns to money, the structural phrasing you need remains remarkably simple.
How so?
You just announce your intent. I'd like to check out. You request your documentation softly. Could I have my bill? And you handle logistics with a simple inquiry. Can I leave my luggage here?
Looking at the entire timeline of the stay, it's pretty fascinating how the whole journey is essentially a story told through phrasal verbs. Like, we start the trip at the front desk by checking in and filling out registration forms. Then we spend our time in the room turning on the TV or the lights. And finally, we settle our debts and are checking out.
It really reveals how modular the English language is in practical application. You do not need an expansive academic vocabulary to function at a high level. You just need to know which module of language to plug into which situation.
Modular language, I like that.
Yeah, the phrasal verbs act as the gears turning the interactions, and the soft language acts as the oil keeping the friction down.
So if we step back and look at the underlying mechanics we've explored today, the core lesson of this deep dive is incredibly empowering. You do not need flawless, complex English to navigate the world confidently. Short, polite sentences using soft language are entirely sufficient to control your environment.
100%.
They will get you from the initial arrival, through navigating the building, to fixing a broken air conditioner, all the way to paying your final bill, and the ultimate safety net. If you forget a word, you don't panic. You just stay calm, use a minimizer to avoid putting anyone on the defensive, and describe the functional problem as simply as you can.
You know, there is a profound takeaway hidden in these hospitality sources that stretches far beyond just traveling and booking hotels.
Oh, where are you going with this?
Well, we spent a lot of time today analyzing the psychology of soft language. We saw how minimizing a complaint, framing a deafening room as a little noisy, completely de-escalates tension and triggers a collaborative response rather than a defensive one.
Right, getting the staff on your side.
Exactly. So if hotel staff around the world, across countless different cultures, are trained to respond so positively to softened complaints and simple inquiries, it raises a really fascinating question for our own lives.
I'm listening.
Could actively applying this exact same soft language approach completely change how we resolve conflicts in our everyday personal relationships? What if we use that strategy of minimizing blame and cushioning our requests with our colleagues or our families, even when we are speaking in our native languages?
Oh, wow. That is a thought. Imagine looking at a completely chaotic living room and telling your partner, the house is a little messy today. Could we tidy it up? Instead of defaulting to, you never clean up after yourself.
Right. It shifts the entire dynamic from an accusation to a collaboration.
It really does make you rethink how often we create our own friction just by choosing the wrong linguistic tool. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Before you move on to your next task, I want you to think back to a time you stayed somewhere. A hotel, a hostel, maybe a rural guest house, where absolutely no one spoke a word of your language. How did you survive that interaction? What creative, nonverbal ways did you use to bridge that gap? Keep analyzing those interactions, keep practicing those polite phrases, and keep exploring the world. We'll see you next time.